Dear Elijah and Elena, um, doing a live video for one time, once, just kind of really just trying to see the lighting on it and different stuff like that. Probably need to get a better light. So just trying something a little different. But wanted to do this video because I kind of go around on Twitter from time to time, Facebook and other social media apps. So different things kind of come to my mind that make me think of something that I want to tell my children about. And so I saw a person basically tweet out something in response to another person. So one guy, and I'm gonna do my best to kind of avoid names and stuff like that because I'm not like some big deal or anything like that, and I'm not really gonna be able to have a conversation with these people or debate them or something like that. But one guy, it looks like both of them are maybe ministers or and stuff like that. But anyway, one guy basically reposted another guy's response about interracial, kind of like interracial relationships, but also tied to political views and social views. So one gentleman had tweeted, he said, "I usually ignore the imbecilic rantings of this man, have him muted and such, but my wife sent me this. And I just wanted to personally say, just shut up, dude, like seriously." And he was quoting another guy, except I'm doing my best to not to say their names. But the guy is kind of a well-known, he's looks like over thousands of 30,000 Twitter followers. And he's supposed to be a minister and it says a preacher and trauma-informed soul care provider as his Twitter description handle or whatever. And so anyway, he posted something where he said, "It's no coincidence that the black men who are used as tokens to promote and enable white supremacy are almost, in caps, always married to white women. That's how exoticism works. They sacrifice their blackness to have white, and have white, and the white receives them as long as blackness is merely their body." And then he says, "This ain't me throwing shade at black and white marriage. I'm the product of it. Paternal grandparents." It's interesting. "I'm thankful that my white grandfather didn't just desire my grandmother's body, but he loved all of her and was willing to risk his life, march, and protest on behalf of all of her." And I'm not going to continue on with what he's saying, but this is kind of the thing why I really get irritated and disappointed that so many, and this is a Christian person, and I really get disappointed that Christian people that fall in line with this kind of thinking. You know what? Not even just Christian people. I think I get more that's irritated with people who it's like we just forget, these that blanket statements really don't work and don't help. It doesn't help anything. I mean, yes, I'm an independent conservative, and conservatism amongst African American people is like it's like having a scarlet letter A on your forehead for adultery, and having that scarlet letter C for conservatism or conservative is just like for a lot of people, it's just a terrible thing, right? So you make blanket statements like these. And I don't know who he's talking to or talking about or pointing to. Maybe he really does feel that some African American person is really enabling white supremacy and promoting it. Usually, and the reason I'm saying about being conservative is because that's usually what gets thrown the direction of the African American conservative is that you are being a token for Caucasian people. I can't believe you're. I think even some years ago when I was posting something on Twitter. Somebody referred to me as, I wish I had kept the picture of it. I remember I screenshotted it to myself just so I could keep it. That I was basically supporting white supremacy by not, having whatever view it was at the time. And I just thought to myself, that is just very, very sad to me. Because we make these blanket statements like, for him to say, well, they sacrifice their blackness. And I must, say, I'm probably do another video on this. This is already almost 5 minutes now. That the whole blackness, thing and the whiteness, right? Like, it's basically like there's different levels, different amounts or something like that. Like if you had like a cup of Kool-Aid or something like that. I don't know why I'm using Kool-Aid, maybe it's just on my brain. But any drink, right? And one person has more sugar than another. It'd be like, okay, well they're not as that as much as that drink. Or I just toss any drink. Let's say sweet tea or something, right? The one person might have more sugar in their sweet tea, so they're more sweet tea than this person over here, or something like that. And it's just ridiculous, in my personal opinion. And I think that's kind of the thing for me is why I really don't like. It's part of the reason. Is another video for this too. Because I want started over 5 minutes now. Is that why I probably will look at why I've looked at not really attaching myself to many groups, right? And I really am heavy on being an individual. The older I've gotten, is because we do these blanket statements and we make it like everybody or everything is about that statement that you're making, right? So the person is talking about the white receives, they sacrifice their blackness to have white, and the white receives them as long as blackness is merely their body. And it's like, well, how do you know that? I mean, so are you really believing and really saying that you think that the person is really sacrificing who they are and all that they are to quote unquote have a white woman or whatever, or have white people to love and hold on and respect them? And maybe there are some people out there like that, right? But somebody can easily flip that back on you that, well, he's really saying all this stuff, to make himself sound good with black people, right? Like, I'm really for the black folks out there. And like, you can't be fake, because there have been stories that have come out and evidence to stories about people who have really tried to, make themselves like they were the great black activist hope, and they were fake, or they were just trying to get money, or there really wasn't any evidence showing that they really were out there really helping African American people and putting things, organizations and things together to really further along African American communities. So, I don't know, things like that really kind of get under my skin when we kind of do this stuff, especially going to each other. I don't like it, as a religious person. I don't like it when Christians do to other Christians. Like, it's almost like we, in this world that we live, we can't accept that we're just going to have difference of opinions. We're going to see life differently. We're going to, and the thing is we always want to try to work hard on being logical, using facts for our arguments, but we're humans, sometimes men, sometimes people in general will say women are more emotional than men. I saw another guy tweeting about something about that. And men sometimes are more logical, but it's men and women. Man, we could be just as emotional as women. Women can be just as logical as men. We all, may argue that we try to be objective, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we're very subjective. We're taking things from our own vantage point and then trying to make it like it is the larger narrative. And I don't care how many fans you have or how many people believe the same thing that you believe. You can have a bunch of people have the wrong view or have the wrong idea on something, and it can be very, very popular. And I think that's kind of the thing that's surprising and disappointing to me, is that we still live in a world where we tell others, okay, well, if you hold this view, that is somehow wrong for that person to have that view. But my view is right. My view, and really, we're always speaking to echo chambers when we say that. So it's and this is kind of just a live video, just to do real quick. I doubt I'll actually keep it. I'll probably go back and do another video to kind of shorten up and make it more concise. But that's and anybody, I think I see one that shows that one person's watching. I'm not that big of a channel, but if whoever that person is that's watching, I would say just be encouraged that whether you're religious or not, no matter your skin color, no matter your background, where you come from, your social status, your financial status, whatever type of job you have, be very, very careful to make a statement, whether you have a social media account or not. If you tell other people that you preach it or speak it or whatever, and make it sound as if your statement can only hold water. Because what I think happens to a lot of people too in the life that we live in our society, in this Western society anyway, I think more and more people make statements without really taking into consideration that the people that they're probably talking about or talking toward and saying that this is the thing about that group of people, they dropped my phone on the floor. They do not. They actually don't engage those people. They actually do not probably have a person that they really know who has an opposing view, right? So when this brother is talking about these, African American, people out here who are sacrificing their blackness, and because they want to be with the so-called white folks. And I would just ask that person, oh, do you know that person personally that you're talking about? Do you know those people personally that you're talking about? Because what really happens is that's why people say a lot of stuff on social media, because they can get that echo chamber. They can say what they're thinking or what they believe in many cases, but they're not really going to interact with that person or those persons over there. They might get some response back or pushback on social media, but that's what I told people before. I will engage to a degree people that I disagree with or even in agreement with on social media. But I really don't do a lot of it because I know for the most part, it's not going to change anyone's mind. Many times people don't change their minds about a view or something that they're thinking in a public forum or a public space, right? Like, so if they're debating someone in front of, any other group of people, they're trying to make it like they're the most intelligent person in the room or at the table or in that argument. So they're not going to change their views right there in front of you. It many times is when people are not away. I mean, people are not away. People are away from others. They're doing a bunch of reading by themselves. They're doing a bunch of maybe writing by themselves, a bunch of thinking by themselves, and they're taking it all in. They're just, okay, I'm taking that in. I'm trying to think about what I've always believed about race or religion or social status or how the economy works. I'm taking this in about politics. I may take a little bit of this person who I'm a fan of, and I'm going to try to go and reach out to this person who I'm maybe not a fan of or who has an opposing view. Trying to read, trying to think, trying to read, trying to think, and you're thinking it through, and then you're like, man, it seems like there's just more. If we're trying to get to that level of objectivity, there's just more weight on this side. Now, I grew up thinking this, or I came to this conclusion. Even if you grew up having one view as a child, and then the older you got, your view changed over time. That happens a lot. It's just, but that's what we should be doing. But in social media, that's rarely happening now. I mean, you think about it. If you were to ever look in the comment section, it's been going on for years. It's nothing new, obviously. But if you were looking in the comment section of a lot of different social media sites, something that got really popular, I think more or less with the generation now and young people, probably some in my age range. I'm 35, and then there, and the ones younger. The thing that's popular now is to say facts or 100 or speak your truth, whenever the person's saying something they agree with, right? And I've always thought to myself, how many times has that person writing that comment facts or 100 or speak your truth or speak the truth or whatever, how many times have you actually gone back and really looked at all of that data or evidence or the things that they said and it's actually facts, right? Because if it's just me, if I had to guess, a lot of people probably have not actually went back and engaged those facts. A lot of times, people will take things because it just sounds good, right? Or it sounds good, so therefore it must be right, because this is what I grew up with, especially when it comes to things of race in America. I've done a video before where I talked about I don't have a fear of living in America. And this is after a famous athlete that come out talking about, we as African American people walk out our front doors, afraid every day. Like, maybe you. That may honestly be true. I'd be shocked if that person really did. Multi-millionaire. This person I imagine has bodyguards. It's a pretty big athlete, so they probably can handle themselves physically. But I'm sure they have bodyguards. Probably rarely ever had to come across anybody that could ever personally threaten them. But anyway, my point being is that I've never walked out my door, I don't think ever, being fearful of living in America as an African American person. And like I said before, this comes from a person who's married to an African American woman. So the cat tweeting about whoever's talking about sacrificing their blackness to be with white. I got honestly, he ain't talking about me because I'm married to an African American woman and happy about my skin color. I'm happy about my hair. I don't wake up in the morning like, oh my gosh, I just wish I had flowing blonde locks and blue hair, and blue eyes. I mean, oh, I'm good. I love me. I remember there used to be an old saying that used to be around the early 2000s when I was a kid. People used to say, "I love me some me." Like, and it's not an arrogant thing. It's just I'm happy with who I am, and I think that's what it is for a lot of people. African American, Caucasian, Asian. I know we've been talking about more. A lot of Asian American hatred been going on. Hispanic Americans and things like that. But the thing, if my children ever watch this video, and it's much longer than I thought I'd be ranting. I'm just basically ranting, at this point, because it's over 15 minutes. I imagine a lot of people watch it anyway. But my kids, if you all watch it one day, I want you to understand from your father that I'm gonna probably talk to you a lot about race. If I'm given that time to be able to be with you all as you get older. But you have to realize that if I do die, before, while you all are young, you watch this video, I want you just to realize and know that your father was never big on race. Like, I think I've written about this before. I've talked about it before in videos where I said, your grandfather when I was a kid, and this is in the mid to late 90s, as a teenager, and, we were living in Maryland. I had a good childhood, interacting with kids from different races and cultures and things of that nature, for the most part. And I think I told my father, like, I hope, I think I said something like, I don't want to be colorblind. No, I don't want to be, I want to be colorblind. I think that's what I told him. And if I remember correctly, it wasn't him. I don't think it was my mother. I talked to both my mothers about race. My father was the one, if I remember correctly, who said, son, I don't want you to just be colorblind. I want you to be color conscious, because though skin color and race may not matter to you, it matters to the world. That's why I think, in our country and in our culture, we still dealing with a lot of stuff, even 20 years later after I was a teenager, because it is so just on our brain. It's like we just can't let it go, because of the history of slavery in our country and Jim Crow laws and, issues in the country for Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans, I would say even for Caucasian Americans, and women and, and stuff like that. Everything is a blanket statement. White folks are just bad. There's inherent white privilege. There's the white people and just, they just can't help themselves but to hate the black man. I was, saw something, there's the trial going on for the George Floyd death, when he died. I think it was last year, I guess. And I guess a friend of his, I'm not watching it, like I said before, I just don't have any relation to it. I will probably get blasted for that by other African American people who ever saw this video. But I've just never had a bad run in with a police officer. The only time I've ever had a bad run in is, in my mind anyway, when they were like, I know they were gonna give me a ticket for my butt speeding. Like, that was it. But I never felt like any sense of danger, like, oh my gosh, this white man's about to shoot me or whichever. I had my hand on the wheel, windows down, no music blasting, wasn't doing a bunch of fidgeting, moving in the car. And I'm not saying that if you're doing these things, you deserve to be shot and killed. I'm not, don't. And that's another thing people happens. I think a lot of times too, people leap, to other ideas or thoughts or statements when you don't say certain things. So be careful about that too. But anyway, my whole point being is that had my hands on the wheel, didn't have any drugs in the car, wasn't acting rude. Like, that's the thing I told a lot of people. I wouldn't be surprised that if you did get pulled over by a police officer, if you're not being rude to them and they can't smell anything, initially, if they're not like a K9 cop or something like that, you probably could get away with a bunch of junk. Like, you're not getting an attitude, you're not smoking, like, there's no marijuana coming from the car, you're not doing fidgeting and jumping around and moving and this and that stuff. Forget your skin color. You just come up like, hey, how you doing today, sir? Window already down, car turned off, and you got your hands right here. You at what they say 2 and 10 or whichever, and they come up and hello, sir, how are you doing this evening? Then, hey, sir, do you know why I pulled you over? That's usually the first question. Or some of them they even be nice enough to ask you how are you doing. No, and be honest up front. I probably was speeding. Yeah, well, yeah, you were doing 20 in a, whatever, doing 20 over the speed limit. I was doing 20 over the speed limit about 4 or 5 months ago and got a ticket. Um, but I wasn't rude to the guy. I wasn't like, like, hey, what's your problem, man? I'm a black man. You're always trying to, I'm driving while black. Nah, no, no, yes, you can see my skin color, but I'm good. I'm just, in the car, being respectful, respecting the fact that he does have authority. You might not want to hear that. You might not like that, but he does have authority. Okay. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was speeding. I think my son was in the car, which I know it's bad to say, live on air. But my son did have a seatbelt on him. But and he's like, yeah, can I get your driver's license? And okay, yeah. I have to read. I remember my father taught me this when I was a kid. I usually keep my driver's license in my front pocket. I don't do my back pocket, my front pocket. Sir, I have to turn to get my driver's license out of my front pocket. And sometimes I've had a couple police officers actually smile at that because they knew what I was doing. Like, right, like they were like, yeah, I'm not gonna shoot you, brother. Okay, but I appreciate you letting me know. But I remember, I think it was Richard Pryor had a joke or something. He said, in a sense, it was probably more true for that time period than now, where he said something to the effect of, yeah, because I didn't want to be no mother loving accident. He was cursing, but and so basically, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be an accident, so I don't want to shift quick and be like, hey, yeah, I'm just getting my wallet out. Like, no, like slow your butt down, okay? Because I don't want him to pull a gun on me, right? Because I don't know what he's been through during the day as well. See, that's another thing. When I thought about being a police officer, I got the chance to ride around with some. You gotta start realizing and thinking like, man, I don't know what day he's had or what day she's had or whichever. And here's the thing too. They're human. Sometimes we make this thing, this stuff to be racial so quickly. And thank you, Chargerification. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I think a lot of people, automatically jump. Like when George Floyd, passed away, it was sad. It was, I'm sure it was very emotional and devastating for a lot of African American people. I have a cousin that lives in the I think he was in Minneapolis. But I have cousins and family that live in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And so I imagine that might have been emotional for them, right? Maybe they dealt with police officers up there in that district or precinct or wherever, and they felt like, man, yeah, that person really was a racist we've had so many issues with this particular place. So, but again, just because something's going on in one particular precinct or particular place or a number of times on a particular area doesn't make that the entire country or an entire area. And so, like, even for like the George Floyd thing, and as sad as that was to happen, when it happened, here's the crazy thing about it: most people, Caucasian, African American, Hispanic, and Asian, were on the same board, right? Like our thing was, I don't even care about the guy, the police officer being Caucasian. I really didn't care about George Floyd being African American. It makes it sells better for the media and for some African American activists when it's an African American person. Because see, then we can keep pushing the narrative that America is inherently racist, even in 2021 or 2020 when it happened. There's so much evil in this country, and we can still push that narrative. Like I can't ever change for African American people in this country, even though we've come much further. Like my generation has things much better than my father's generation. He was born in the '60s, and both of my mothers, right? And their generation, in my view, from what I've seen, what I've read historically, what I've seen in documentaries and things of that nature, their generation had it better than their parents who were born in the 30s and 40s, right? But for some people, we can't ever come to that conclusion. That point, that viewpoint. Like whenever you listen to some people, whenever they make some of these, these movies about certain African American activists and stuff, they will make it sound like as if this is still happening now. As far as I know, okay, we don't have issues with lynching going on in this country. Now you may find that from time to time there are some ignorant people out there who are hate-filled, who might attack somebody for their skin color. That is very true. I'm not like, yeah, okay. But for the most part, I like to think statistically they could be back put for this. They're not. That's not happening, right? data and statistically shown that more and more African American males are doing what they need to do in the home, taking care of their kids, right? We all want to be working on doing more, getting more and more out of jail, right? But things are changing, right? Because in the 80s, like when I was born, the numbers of fatherless homes were ridiculous. And this comes from a man my father was in my life, but my father's father was killed when my father was 4. And he was born in a family. They had 7 kids at this point when his father was killed. So, no, not 7. He was 4. My bad. So my father was 4 when his father was killed, and he left behind 4 children because my grandmother was just going to have her youngest child at this time, and then she had 3 more later on. So anyway, my whole point being, I've made this thing much longer because I'm ranting and gotten a little more, a little more emotional or something like that about it. But my point being is that, again, no fear living in America. There's no time like today where I think it's great to be an American and being African American or Black American, whatever you want to call yourself, or other, right? Because I'm not black, okay? My hair is black. I actually don't like calling people black and white. I hate that, okay? There's no better time to be African American or black in this country or other, whatever. No better time to really move up, I was watching part of it, and I probably should have talked a little bit about this Uncle Tom documentary I was watching. That was Larry Elders, another African American conservative, Candace Owens, and some other well-known African American conservatives were a part of, basically making a documentary about why African American conservatives would be called Uncle Tom, what would be called Coon and Republican bootlickers and white lovers and whatever. I mean, they got so many names for African American conservatives. It's ridiculous. And you will find many African American conservatives are probably the more free thinking individuals who think for themselves and have a certain view. But if you don't have the view that Black people are still oppressed in this country or still a victim or still victims, and there's systemic racism still at the level that it was, you may have certain aspects of racism that are prevalent in different areas in the country, in different societies or different cultures in the country. Yeah, probably so, because we're human. It's part of being a human is that we just don't do the best job, as far as being loving to each other 24/7. I can tell you that, and while I'm married, I'm not the most perfect husband 24/7 on paper, but I'm not perfect, right? So that's going to happen being human. But anyway, you're still looking around and having a lot of people still want to push the narrative that the victims were oppressed. It's like, no, yes, you might have some generations or some families that are still trying to climb up, still trying to move and still trying to do this and be that. That may be true, but that's not all of us. I never struggled like my father and my second mother and my mother. Okay. Those 3 can tell you my father grew up in North Alabama, my mother grew up in South Alabama. My second mother was born in New York State and grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and in Northwest Georgia. And they could tell you between them 3 that they probably heard the N-word, right? They were probably called the N-word when they were kids. I think my dad probably heard it when he was even in the military between 82 and 84 when he went to boot camp and stuff like that, right? Here's the thing, though. I was telling somebody this last night. I think I can tell you that I probably heard the N-word. I probably was called the N-word once by a Caucasian person. And if I remember correctly, we pelted his butt with rocks, right? Probably not the best thing to have done, but hopefully he learned that from that day forward. Hey, if I say this word, I'm probably going to get hit or meet some violence, right? But since then, I don't think I could ever point a single time to you where I can say, man, that just seemed like racist, okay? Or those issues over there put together my story and then another story and then this other person's story combined together. Man, that seemed like that's a racist thing. It could be that there may be some prejudice in there. It could be that the people may have been ignorant to, hey, they needed to do more for certain African-American people or whatever. But I can't say that for myself. My life has went and this is what I'll say because it's pushing 30 minutes and I really need to let this thing go. The thing he just passed. I can forget his name already. Oh, Herman Cain. Herman Cain was in the documentary Uncle Tom. Like I said, Larry Elder, I think he produced it. He didn't write it and direct it. It was somebody else. But it was when it came out last year. And I would suggest any and everybody watches it. You don't have to be just conservative. I think you would learn something from it, actually, if you're not just African American and not just conservative. But anyway, they were interviewing Herman Cain, God rest his soul. And he said on there something I just thought is so profound. He was just like, because remember, people don't remember and don't think about when he was running for the president of the United States back in, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the time. It was before Trump, so it was that 2012, I think. I think it was 2012. I might be messing it up. People talk about him running then, but because he's gone now, he's gone to be with God now. But and time has passed on. But he was already successful before it wasn't like he just woke up one day and I'm a black conservative on the radio and this, that, that. Like he's a millionaire. But he's successful working at a pizza place, and I think he was successful working somewhere else. Very, very smart, right? Same if you go look up Dr. Thomas Sowell, who's one of the great. I don't know if he would call himself a conservative too much. I think he is conservative, but I don't know if he would call himself too much. But he's right leaning, so conservative, libertarian, or whichever. One of the great, economic minds from the 20th century, who's like 90 years old. So hopefully, we'll be able to keep him around longer. If so be it. Dr. Walter Williams is another great economist. He passed away, I think earlier this year, not 2020, earlier this year. But anyway. These three were an example of what Herman Cain said. Herman Cain said, the thing about success is that it's never a straight line. It's usually a zigzag. I'm going to say that again because I just thought it was powerful. After like 30 minutes of doing this live video, which, like I said, many people probably never won't even see it. Again, he said, success is rarely or never or something like that. Is rarely a straight line. It is usually a zigzag. I remember thinking like, thank you. Okay. Even in my life now, I'm on transitions from different jobs, still trying to find that one job that I still have an idea what I love to do, but hadn't quite got there yet, 35 years old. So I'm not filthy rich or anything like that. But he made an excellent point. And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize, because sometimes people will say, well, as African Americans in this country, we don't get to pass on that generational wealth that Caucasian people do. It's like, I don't know about you, but I've met a lot of Caucasian people in my life that were not born from rich parents. They grew up in the same neighborhood as me. We were both suburban. Our parents now probably more successful, but a lot of us that were in the same neighborhood as each other, even when I was in college, our parents weren't rich. We got scholarships. Some of us screwed them up, including myself. And we were able to hopefully move on and move up when we got our degree. And our parents are too. Like my father is doing much better in life than he had before. Now he still has two other sons after me, him and my mother, my second mother. And so none of us are like, we're not filthy rich, but they're out of debt. My mother is out of debt. She had to work her butt up, and I think she's still trying to pay off her truck. But that's the thing that a lot of African American people would told you years ago. Black folks, we can't get out of debt. That's just the way it is. We just stay in debt. Like, no, certain decisions you make keep you in debt. Okay, again. We got to stop with these blankets. That's the reason I started this video over 30 minutes ago. That was the whole point. Well, part of it. Besides the brother, I was talking on my phone on Twitter, talking about African American people. Who, many times they're tokens. If I had to guess, it's probably done by African American conservatives, tokens for white people, and they are really enabling white supremacy, and they're usually married to white women and stuff like that. And the crazy thing is he's actually multiracial himself and married to anyway. But that's beside the point. Like I said, I'm not gonna say the cat's name. So anyway, like I said before. It is sad that we continue to make blanket statements, these major generalizations over things that are usually very, very complex, very detailed. And looking at your own situation, stop putting your situation in comparison to somebody else's. That's also another sad thing to me, is that too many people will make a statement about a group of people really based on their own, probably mostly their own experience. Maybe even their friends or people that they're really close to, right? And make it sound like that's supposed to be the entire group's experience. That's why many times I don't like being connected to an entire group of people anywhere. Even as a Christian, I'm becoming an Orthodox Christian, and I love the Orthodox Church. It's going to be a while before I can fully become a member of it. There's not going to be a religious thing on this video, um, but because I get disappointed in what so many others do that have similar labels to me, whether it be my skin color or race or I said skin color, race or religion, or political view, social view. I'll hear people say stuff, and I'm just like, "Dadgummit, like, shut up." I represent myself, and I'm gonna try to cut it off now. That's one thing I'll leave whoever watches this with is that, again, I pointed out before that no fear of living in America. Okay, as an African American person, love being an African American conservative because I've tried to think through issues. I can't say I'm the most brilliant person. I tried to think through issues. I was raised with an African American conservative as a father. My second mother, my mother, not so much. My second mother is more conservative now, but back in the day, she was the liberal in the house. But I grew up with two intellectuals. Her and my father are very smart. They would debate ideas and topics in front of me. So anyway, but being African American conservative doesn't mean that you're sacrificing your love of being an African American. Even if you marry a Caucasian person, right? I made a video recently about dating outside your race. It's about that's about 10 minutes long. If you all want to watch it. Like I said, I do these videos for my kids and for fellow fathers out there that one day comes along, and I'm gone. My kids can have some thoughts to think about. And I was saying in the video, look, it doesn't matter to me that you date outside your race. It does kind of matter to me on that person's faith. I do believe in being equally yoked. That's just me. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not gonna apologize for that. So I do believe in being equally yoked. But your skin color, if I was reading through scripture or the Orthodox Church and just saw that was a tenet, like, tenet number 112, verse whatever. You black don't be around with don't mess around with no white folk. White folk don't mess around with Asian people. Asian people don't mess around with Hispanic people. Then two things. One, I would either not done it and stayed in this faith, or two, which would be more than likely, I would have said, yeah, that just doesn't quite sound like the faith for me, because I can't see how a God that is supposed to be loving and he's supposed to have created all of us would just say, hey, stay in your group, stay in your lane, don't go over there. That's not for you. You see how they look? Yeah, don't do that. Like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, so there's those main points. Like I said, the video started on that cat talking about African American, which I'm taking that as a shot at African Americans. Really, I think it is, and I despise blanket statements. So African American conservatives can love themselves and love other African American people that look like them, regardless of financial status, regardless of their religious view, regardless of their political view. Okay, they don't have to deny who they are in order to be conservative or to have conservative views that are held by mostly Caucasian people. Okay, so they gotta just stop doing that. Stop with the blanket statements. Okay, because many times there are things are very complex, very the minutia of ideas and things that are going on, that a blanket statement is not going to work. Okay, you don't know, and many times the blanket statement on people that you're making it on, you're more than likely you're not engaging those folks, or if you do, you're not engaging them in a loving fashion. Where you're like, hey man, let's go out to lunch and just hash it out. Let's just go have a good time, right? So when you're having a good time, you eat with that person, you really get a chance to know them. You're like, man, that's not exactly completely what I just said. 3, don't have any fear of living in America as an African American. Sorry, I just don't. I hadn't had that problem. Maybe there are folks out there who've had issues with their race and their skin color, background, whichever. It's fine for you, but and if that's the case, you got to figure out a way to work that through. But not me. And last thing, hold on to Herman Cain's the quote that he made in the Uncle Tom documentary that I think everybody should watch. I just thought was excellent, where he said, success is not a straight line, or rarely a straight line. It's a zigzag. Success is rarely a straight line. It is a zigzag. And that can be for anyone. Okay. So this is 40 minutes. This is literally over 35 minutes longer than I thought I was going to do. For those folks who watch Chargerification, like I said, I appreciate you making that comment over there. My people, I appreciate you. Those folks who watch, those folks who will watch, like, subscribe, share. I try not to ask that really too much. I don't know. I feel kind of disingenuous when I do it, right? Because I really started this video, this channel, right, dedicated to my children. But I do want more viewers, not just because I just quote unquote want to make a living off this stuff, but maybe I could do something and help others in a way maybe that others are not helping others, and those are the great thinkers in the times in which we live. But I really want to encourage more people. That's my big thing is encouraging people. I think that's what God put me on this planet for, is to encourage. So anybody who watched, like I said, like, subscribe, share, please leave a comment. Thank you for all you do. Hey, something to think about.